Hey, I'm Lorena and I wanted to do a small tutorial, maybe not small, but on binding. And so this is what binding looks like, and let me open it. I'm going to teach you how I do binding and some of my little tricks. All you're going to need is some Elmer's glue, of course your rotary cutter, your sewing machine, and just some really pretty fabric. Now I'm going to do a tutorial on how to put it on this quilt. This quilt was a challenge for my friend. Her name is Melanie. Shout out to Melanie. She went and challenged me to do a 9-patch, do something with a 9-patch that she had blocks already made, and so I made a disappearing 9-patch. Now this quilt behind me I've had for years, going from one area to another area, so I decided to go ahead and quilt it. And so this is a pretty large quilt, and so I wanted to do a tutorial on how to sew on the binding. I don't like sometimes have time to do the tacking, especially this is going to be for me to lay around and just to throw out. And so that's what I made this binding for. And I'm going to go do a tutorial on how to sew it on this big giant quilt. And I hope you like this tutorial, and I hope you have an awesome, I know we're getting close to the holidays, awesome Christmas. So talk to you later. Bye. So here's my roll and here's my binding. And what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and feed it. And I'm going to unravel kind of like a good piece of it. And then I'm going to keep on feeding it through. And this way the quilt is off your lap. My quilt is sitting on the table. And here I am coming to an end. Now I'm going to come to a fourth, give myself a fourth, and you can use a ruler to measure it. And then I backstitch. And then I lock it off. Now, so here I am at my end, my corner. I went all the way to the fourth, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to make a triangle. Nothing like a beautiful triangle. There's my triangle. And then after I have my triangle, I'm going to hold this top area with this finger, and then I'm going to fold it over. And I'm going to make sure that this end of the fabric ends up on this end, so it's even right here. Then I'm going to turn this corner around. Give myself some more space. So I'm going to start at the very end again. Go forward, back stitch, forward. And I'm going to keep on going. Here I'm coming to this end again. Go all the way to a fourth to your corner. Stop. Back pedal. Put yourself out. Now I'm going to turn, now here, I hope you can see that. I'm going to make a triangle right there. I'm going to hold my finger there and I'm going to roll it over. And I want to make sure that I'm even to this space, and then I'm going to turn my corner and start all over again. So I'm here at the ends again. I went ahead and I measured everything, and I made sure there was a 2.5 inch overlap. And then I opened this up, and it was like this. And now I made a triangle out of it, so I'm folding my triangle piece. And now I'm folding it on top like the way it was folded. Let me turn my iron on. And I use the glue stick again, and I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to completely saturate that triangle fold, this triangle fold like this, and then I'm going to tuck this down. Here's my iron. I hope you saw that. Remember that fold, and that's where I'm going to sew. So now I'm going to move this out of my way. Hopefully you see that. And I'm just going to go to the sewing machine next. So here's my folded corner that I ironed. That's what I'm going to sew on. Put my foot down and go at it. Follow that iron fold. Cut it off. Then roll it back in. Now I know it's perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece off. Cut that end off. Now I'm going to continue sewing. I do recommend when you're adding this piece that you give yourself a good chunk of space. I was having problems. Because I wasn't giving myself enough room. So here's I just sewed all this binding down, and now I'm gonna iron all around the quilt this way. And the reason you iron it is you want to make sure that it's completely face flat, and it's completely flat, and I'm going to do that all the way around. Now I am going to not hand stitch this. I am going to sew it with the sewing machine, and I'm going to roll it over and see how beautiful and crisp that line is, and that's what I want. Now I flipped my quilt over. I ironed everything. All my top is very nice and crisp. Now Sharon Chamber has a tutorial, and I want to give her a shout out on using glue to tack the back down. And so I'm going to tack it down, and I'm going to roll it over, and I have my iron pretty hot. Now I'm not going to hand stitch this down because, you know, like, I don't want to. It's too much work right now, too much for this. And you're going to iron it down, and so it becomes completely tacked when you iron it down. And so I'm going to be doing that through the whole process. And here in this corner, if you see that corner, I'm going to fold it. Fold it. And this is where you get that perfect mitered corner. She is, Sharon Chamber does really beautiful competition quilts. And she says that one of the reasons people lose in a competition is because the back binding is not straight. And so I'm going to keep on going. And you just keep on with your Elmer's glue and then roll it over. Now, the reason I'm doing this is that I'm going to put, I am going to sew a straight stitch here. And have you ever tried to sew the binding and it puckers and the fabric moves on you? And it looks horrible. And you're really disappointed and you don't know how to fix it other than unstitching it all over again. This process cleans that mess up, and it doesn't do that because you're already making the fabric stay in position that you want it. And so when the fabric is being fed through the machine, it doesn't shift on you anymore because you're tacking it. And I want to make sure it's straight. If you want to, you can also do this. I do this, and I do this whole process even if I'm going to hand stitch it, because it's already tacked down. I don't need needles. I don't need to pin it. It won't move or shift on me. And I'm going to go ahead, I changed my thread, my top thread and my bobbin thread, and I use black. And I'm going to go ahead and just start sewing it. I'm going to make sure that I'm right close to the edge of this, of the binding that I just sewed. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. and just keep on sewing all the way down. Finishing off this quilt, and I'm right at the edge on my foot. I'm just going to keep on going through. And now that I've tacked everything down, I'm going to show you a corner. Hold it, then turn. So here I've sewn all the binding on, and let me just show you how I sewed right to the very edge. And here's my binding and what it looks like on the top. And this is what it looks like in the back. I hope you really like this tutorial. Have a wonderful day.